Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
What informed his visit was the recent developments in Mali. Of course, former President Goodluck Jonathan is the ECOWAS mediator on Mali. So he was called in when we had this a few days ago, this coup, a coup within a coup, really. And so he went to Mali. He met with the de facto leader now, and he also met with the ousted interim transitional president with his prime minister. He spoke to them all, together with the ECOWAS team, and also with the Ghanaian Minister of Foreign Affairs, as Ghana is now chairing ECOWAS. So he wanted to brief Mr. President on their discussions with, in particular, the now de facto head of the Mali transition. And also because on Sunday, the President of Ghana, as chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State, is convening an emergency meeting of ECOWAS Heads of State, and inviting also to that meeting the now de facto head of the transition governance in Mali. So he briefed Mr. President on their discussions. Essentially, they had wanted, as ECOWAS, to return to the status quo ante. In other words, for the detained former president of the Transitional Council and his prime minister to go back. Because what caused the problem was that the president of that Transitional Council dissolved the government and then reconstituted the government and dismissed the minister in charge of security and the minister in charge of defense. Now, these were two key ministers who, together with the vice president, were the ones that carried out the first coup that removed the civilian president. So he explained, former President Goodluck Jonathan, that the vice president then of that transitional council, who led the coup, was now complained that he had not been consulted in decisions that were taken, even on security matters, and that the dissolution of the government, he was not consulted. The reconstitution of the government, he was not consulted. That the dissolution was illegal and not in accordance with the transition program, and that removing his main supporters, the ministers in charge of security and defense, was also something that was carried out without his consulting him, especially as his portfolio and mandate was essentially security. So, as you know, they ostensibly resigned while they were in detention. But he said that they will be released, and he's released them yesterday. That is to say, released the president of the Transitional Council and the prime minister. But he insists that he will now run essentially the last 7 months, because it was an 18-month transition. And there's about 7 months left with 2 months elections, that he will now run it as a president and would not accept to go back to the status quo ante, what it was before. So that's what former President Goodluck Jonathan came to brief Mr. President on, and put before Mr. President the various options that they would now have to consider when the ECOWAS heads of state meet at this emergency meeting on Sunday in Accra, chaired by the President of Ghana in his capacity as the chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State. And And
what are the options?
well, the option is, the one that was seems to have been ruled out, going back to the status quo ante. So in other words, the government that was there before the dissolution. Option number 2 is not to have a military-led transition process. In other words, a serving military officer as the president of the transition program for the next 7 months, but to bring from outside another civilian who could serve in that position. That's a second option. And of course, the third option was to accept the fait accompli that the current leader, de facto leader, should just be allowed to manage the process on the condition that they have elections in 7 months' time. So those are, I think, this is what former President Goodluck Jonathan was essentially saying. There were the 3 options that are to be presented to probably the heads of states.
How did President Buhari respond?
Well, he was extremely disappointed with the attitude of the government of Mali, because he pointed out that 70% of Mali is under the control of insurgents, and that he would have expected that all the stakeholders in Mali would come together to seek to recover the 70% of their country that is under the occupation of rebels and insurgents, and be united for that purpose. And he pointed out that the whole essence of a military, of an army, is first and foremost to secure a country, the territorial integrity of a country. So he would have thought that would be the priority, and not battling amongst themselves for the 30% of the country that is not occupied. So he found that it's really an unfortunate situation and a paradox. But that in any case, he would be in Accra on Sunday and would listen to all the options available, and listen to the de facto head of the government of Mali, and then they would now take a decision. Thank you.